Hey there, and welcome to Real Talk with Julie Turner. By the way, that's me. The show where we get real. Real honest, real opinionated, and hopefully once in a while, real funny. This show is about questions, concerns, and cries of outrage. I do love cries of outrage. It is based in opinion and all about your entertainment. Any advice given during this show is to be used at your discretion. Before we get started, please always remember to like, subscribe, and share. You know the drill. All right, on with the show. Welcome to Real Talk. The end of an era. Hi there, it's Julie Turner, and welcome to Real Talk. That sounds pretty dramatic, doesn't it? The end of an era. So in today's episode, I am going to interview somebody that I've known for quite a while now, and somebody that is always very interesting. And full disclosure, I'm recording this little snippet after the interview. And the reason is I never have any idea where I'm going to go with my conversation with this gentleman that you're going to listen to next. So on the show today, I'm going to have Dr. Michael Likey. I don't even know where to begin with who this man is and what this man does. He is a magician. He is an entertainer. He is a Reiki master, a hypnotherapist. What else does this man do? The sky is the limit with this man. He's an author. He'll tell you in the interview, it's like 50 some books or something. And he's just releasing his latest book. So as I said, I never know where my conversations with this lovely gentleman are going to go. So we just kind of started talking. And some of the stories that this man shares, if you could have seen me as opposed to just listening, you'd know I was having a hard time standing up. He is such an entertainer. He actually had a children's show for, I believe it was 9 years. And he was born in Montreal, but he spent a significant amount of his adult life in my hometown of Winnipeg. And in one of these stories, he shares some things that I think we can all think about. So that's where the end of the era comes from. Have you ever found yourself looking back fondly on certain areas of your life and thinking, oh, if only I had stayed there, or if only, whether it's a relationship or a city or a job, looking back so very fondly and going, oh my goodness, maybe I missed out. Maybe I made the wrong decision. Who knows? It was so wonderful looking back. Well, that's the interesting thing, is it's often very wonderful looking back, but you probably would have stayed in the first place if it was all that wonderful in reality. That's something that our mind does. Interesting topic. Whenever we speak of a memory, it actually shifts a little bit every single time. And especially when we speak of it, even when we think of it, it shifts a little bit. But when we speak of it, we might add something here or omit something there. And all of a sudden, this situation that may or may not have been great, it might have been just a situation, is now all of a sudden, the catalyst for you picking up and moving back to that city, or, calling up that ex, or seeing if you can get that job back. Meanwhile, fast forward a few months and you're like, wow, yeah, I was right in the first place. Now, a lot of people don't actually do the action of going back into their past and revamping, reconnecting, moving. A lot of people don't do that, but some of you do. And I'm sure some of you listening right now are going, yeah, been there, done that. Tempted to get back again, the same job, the ex, whatever the case may be. Often our past looks different in the rearview mirror than it was actually. And sometimes that's in a negative light as well. Don't get me wrong. It's not always in a positive light that we remember our past, but it changes. So just remember that when you're sitting there reflecting on your past, that this is science. This is science, people. I know some of you love your science. That we actually do change our memories the more we bring them back into our conscious thought. So I'll be back after this short break with Dr. Michael Likey, one of my favorite entertainers, one of my favorite people. I'm so excited to have this conversation.
What you doing, Brad?
Well, I'm looking at clouds and contemplating life, thanks to Outside the Box.
Oh?
Yeah, since we have a system to take care of our digital stuff, I have time to do this.
Well, thank goodness for Darcy at Outside the Box Digital.
Yeah, reach out to Darcy at OutsideTheBoxDigital.com
for a free review of your digital systems to maximize your time and effort.
Hey, Julie, is that cloud over there? Is that a...
It's an autocumulus.
I was going to say squirrel. Hey there, I'm Brad Lovell, co-producer and audio engineer of Real Talk with Julie Turner. If you need support with podcast audio production, well, I'd love to help. As a broadcaster, musician, and marketing guy, I can help put some polish on your audio production and your delivery. Please feel free to get in touch with me through bradlovellmusic.com. Thank you for listening to Real Talk with Julie Turner. If you're interested in working with Julie one-on-one or taking one of her courses, Dating 101, Foundations in Flow, or Hypnosis Training, please reach out. Book a strategy session and have a conversation. Remember to follow, like, and subscribe. Now back to the show.
All right. Get ready, guys. I am so excited to share my next guest with you. I have actually been on his podcast a couple of times, and I requested that he come visit me on mine because this man has done so many things and has literally lived multiple lives, I swear. Well, haven't we all? But before we actually came on today, we were having this amazing conversation that we should have recorded. So we're going to just kind of take it from there. But before we get into it, I would love to introduce you to Dr. Michael Likey. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Julie. I have to say, I'm so excited and honored to be on your show for a change. Usually I'm interviewing other folks, and recently I completed a 16-show series. But lately I've also been being interviewed by other folks, and I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit, holy cow, like the light bulb is on me for a change.
Right. So speaking of being interviewed, I can't believe that you haven't been interviewed way more, because I know a few things about you. Uh-oh. I know that you have been a television personality. I know that you are an author of, am I correct at saying 45 books? I also know that you are a magician. You are a doctor. You are there is just so many things that I don't even know where to begin. But let's kind of maybe begin sort of at the beginning and tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today.
Well, very, very briefly, and succinctly as a person who loves talking is going to be. I was born and raised, educated in Montreal, went to college, graphic design. So that was my thing when I was living in Montreal, Toronto, and Winnipeg. Winnipeg, believe it or not, is one of my favorite cities, except for the 40 below. And I know you're from Winnipeg or thereabouts as well. And so all I knew for at least 20 years or so was graphic design, advertising, illustration, and magic shows. And Winnipeg was very kind to me. I lived there in the 80s to mid 90s, beginning of the 80s. Kind of whatever I had to offer, they voraciously enjoyed it. And I'm very grateful to them. I think Winnipeg would be the only city that would put me on TV for 9 years. Nonetheless, magic is something that I loved and excited me from a very young age. We used to watch in Montreal magic shows virtually seven days a week on television. So, and I always played with magic. We had a lot of magic shops there. And so I felt like my time was up around 94 in Winnipeg from doing graphic design, from doing the magic shows. I used to average about 250 shows a year, plus the TV show, plus. And that's just who I am. Burn out 5-10 times and then jump back in again. And the far west attracted me for the weather. I had a friend who lived here for 5 years before me, and he just glowed when he'd speak about it. Once a year, I'd phone him from Winnipeg. I'd look up my window, and it's like 40 below. The snow is up to here, and whatever. And he said to me, "Yep, Mike," because that's my name. Not a day goes by when I don't make a living, or when I don't make a buck, I should say. I learned otherwise. And it's January. He's wearing shorts. The flowers are coming up. As a person from the East, such as we are, Toronto, Montreal, Winnipeg, who the heck sees flowers in January, right? We see a nice blanket of snow, which can be beautiful. And so I made a deal with him, keep me and my girlfriend at the time until we get on our feet. He went for it. 94, end of September, I'll never forget. I packed up my van. I had a whole house full of furniture and everything, which we gave away, and whatever could fit in this Voyager magic wagon, if you will. We drove out. I felt like the Beverly Hillbillies, you know, and we rolled into this pristine-looking, beautiful little town in North Van. I took a bridge inadvertently. And I thought, wow, I thought Montreal was gorgeous. Holy cow. And that was the beginning of the end for me. Everything went to crap. I know I'm going to joke about it. I'm going to make light of it. I know certain things are meant to be, and so they were. I firmly believe that in order to truly start afresh, start anew, we kind of have to be stripped clean, so to speak. I don't know any other way, really, really. And naturally, it happened to me. They didn't have the money out here. They couldn't afford me. No one's going to pay $450 for a half-hour magic show. That's only out east. Here they get $150, $125 for a magic show. So that was very discouraging. Graphic design, they didn't have a lot of art houses here in the 90s. They just didn't have the same kind of stuff here like I grew up with and lived and worked with out east. But I didn't adjust. I didn't go, oh, what beautiful beaches. I'm going to relax. I'm going to enjoy this. I panicked financially. And got into, I'd already been playing with the tarot cards in my spare time. And that was the only thing that worked for me here in Vancouver, Canada. And it was both disturbing and really enjoyable because I just had to sit and read cards and I'd make $50 a shot, sometimes reading 10 people in an hour.
Wow.
And it's like, whoa, I never made this kind of money before out of something I just did for fun and pleasure. Because all my life, everything that was a hobby, I made a living from: art, graphic design, magic, and now tarot. That was completely unexpected. And I got to meet people, I got to interact, supposedly help them, short term anyway. And that led to a lot of other things. That led to me getting we have this in common as well, clinical hypnotherapist degree. Because I didn't want to just superficially help people with the cards. I felt that was more short-term, perhaps Band-Aid solution. Not that there's anything wrong with that, with reading cards and doing all that sort of thing. But I just needed to feel like I was giving more, contributing more. So I got my clinical hypnotherapist degree. A few years later, I went for other degrees, such as my master's, my doctorates in metaphysics. I wasn't content to just get one. I thought, okay, I love a good challenge. I can't go very long without a challenge, Julie. I have to kind of challenge myself. And I went for my third doctorate. And that was the hardest one, but I'm really proud of it. A doctor of theocentric psychology. And I was able to give way more to my clients, students. I've written books as a result of that. Well, not as a result of that, partially as a result, but more because I have to challenge myself. I love writing. Why not turn that into something I could share? So I think, and the magic, oh my goodness. So after I finished off, after I finished off my last client, that sounds horrible, but I'd had clients 10, 20 years seeing me, and they cure themselves. I hope you'll agree with me when I say we don't offer a bullet solution. We hopefully touch something or give them tools so that they cure themselves, they work stuff out. And my last client was done about 3 years ago, and I had already gotten back into magic. I never really got out of it, but to get my degrees, I felt I had to. And wow, there was nothing more fulfilling. I was doing tons of magic. I still am, more so than anything I've ever accomplished in Winnipeg. And partially thanks to Zoom. Holy cow. You know, right now we're going through apparently a pandemic, and it's resulted in a lot of growth for us, hasn't it?
It certainly has. That is a perfect doorway, because I was writing things down. When I asked you if I could interview you, I was like, I don't know where I'm going to go with this, because again, there's so many places that we could go. But as you were speaking, I wrote down things like the Phoenix, because I'm completely on board with you as well, that we have to let everything die. We have to let go of our preconceived notions about the world, about our own lives, about everything, so that we can become anew. So I also wrote down the stories we tell ourselves, and how can we let go of the stories that we tell ourselves. And you and I were speaking before about both of us, within a year of each other, took a trip back to Winnipeg, because we both lived there at one point, thinking, this is the answer. I'm going to go to Winnipeg. And for me, when I went there, my fear was that I wouldn't be able to travel because of the current circumstances. And I did not think I could handle an entire year in -40. And then when I came back, as I was sharing with you, Dr. Michael, I was literally walking down the street and I heard the message in my mind that I just need to buy into my own life. And the story I was telling myself is, there's something else. There's something else. I was always living in the future instead of in the present, even though I teach it. But I was always, in a very physical sense, living in the future. So what was your experience of the story that you were telling yourself?
You mean when I was visiting Winnipeg? Mm-hmm. Wow. We did share this off camera or off mic, and it's very exciting to share this. It's amazing how the human mind, or my human mind, such as it is, can create something that isn't well, can I say it's subjective? I'm not sure. But my whole perception of my life, my time in Winnipeg for 13 years, I don't think was accurate. The physical stuff was accurate. The running around doing shows and buying 2 houses and all that sort of thing. That all was real, but my perceptions, my emotional perceptions were very different from what I experienced going back 2 years ago. So I go back 2 years ago, and right away, I'm the kind of person that believes when it's not something isn't going smoothly, kind of stop and take a break or meditate or rest, and then go in again or take a different route. My adage used to be zig or zag. Zag when you should zig, and zig when you should zag, and all that sort of thing. So right off the bat, I'm at the airport. I've got my rental car waiting for me. This is a funny story. And I'm given the key, but it's not really a key. And it's like, oh my God, I've driven for God knows how many years. I can't start the flippin' car. This is an electronic device. There's no key. What goes on here? So I run back. To make a long story short and a short story long, the guy straightened everything out for me. I had to push a button. I had to put my foot on this thing, and I couldn't move the seat forward. So here's this little Jewish man sitting in this gorgeous big black Jetta car, a race car virtually, and I'm way back here, and the steering wheel is way in front. The whole time I could not find the manual. So I'm driving with my foot barely touching the gas or the brake for that matter. But that's only the beginning, Julie.
Oh my goodness. I'm crying, just so you guys know.
Ordinarily, to get, and Winnipeg, to get from the airport to St. James area, because my hotel was in the St. James area, I forget the name of the hotel right now, should have taken me 15 minutes, maybe 20 tops. Well, 45 minutes later, I'm lost. I'm lost in the city that I knew just a few years before. I came back for another book signing a few years before. I knew my way around intuitively. But this time, I might as well be wearing a blindfold. I have no clue. I'm driving in circles. I'm taking Route 90. I'm coming back here. And so I pull over and I sit and I pray a lot. Yes, I pray. And I'm sitting and I'm making a deal with God, with the Almighty, with the ultimate mind of the universe.
Like you do.
And I'm saying, okay, I think I'm getting the message here. Please let me not get into an accident. Please let me know my way again. I think you're showing me I'm done here. And sure enough, wow. I drove right to my hotel. Everything started to gel or click again. And it's like, wow. Because here's the deal. The whole time I was in Winnipeg, and since I've lived here, now it's 27 years, it was 25 at that point, there was nothing better than Winnipeg. Only Winnipeg has this. Only Winnipeg has that. Vancouver or wherever I was living at the time, no. Can't measure up. But let me tell you, I had cold water splashed in my face on that trip. Sure, the book signing went well. Sure, I had to do a presentation for a magic group and a clown group. That went fine. But something was missing. And what was missing was my commitment to the present, my commitment to who and where I supposedly am in this illusionary reality. And I gained it back.
Thank you. I'm so glad that I asked you to share that story, because first of all, it was freaking hilarious. But also because that like really, hopefully you guys are listening, and you're listening really, really hard right now. A couple things that you said, Dr. Michael, much like myself, I wasn't living in my present. I was living in my future. I'm a what if person. I'm not an if only person. I feel like you're either present or you're a what if or you're an if only. So are you in the past? Are you in the future? Are you in the present? And I believe that I'm in the present most of the time, but I wasn't participating that way. So thank you for sharing that. The other thing is, you said, your perception was off about Winnipeg. Your emotions were different than the reality. And that's what we all do. So we carry our emotions, because you had a great day in Winnipeg, and then it was a great this and a great that, but you moved here and you matured and you changed, but your emotions stayed stuck to how they were in Winnipeg. But now, as who you are today, Winnipeg doesn't fit. And that was the same way as I was. Like, I had grown. And for me specifically, when I was in Winnipeg, I was not a very spiritual person. I was very logical, and not that I'm not now, but it was like, I was a human doing. I always say I was a human doing. And now I am much more of a human being. Relationships are more important, all that kind of stuff. So I am a different person. So going back there was like, I don't fit anymore. So thank you for sharing that. And just a side note for those of you that do or don't know Winnipeg, Dr. Michael mentioned the Route 90. Now, something fun about Route 90, if you haven't been to Winnipeg, and I grew up there and I lived there for 41 years. So like Route 90 is Route 90, but it's also Osborne, and it's also Isabel, and it's got 5 names. And if you tell somebody just Route 90, they're like, I don't know, I'm not on Route 90 anymore. I didn't turn. What happened? And it's quite funny. And there's more than one street in Winnipeg that does that. So set your GPS is the rule that I'm going to give you guys. Thank you so very much for sharing that story. I feel like we have 25 other stories to share, and I actually do believe that. I would love to have you back on the show again and possibly dig into something you didn't even mention. Dig into the spiritual end of things, the metaphysical end of things, because I know that you have a deep faith, but you also have all these other tools, like Reiki, like hypnosis itself is not a spiritual tool, but it can be used in a very spiritual way. I love that we shared the tarot. I'm very much like you. I was playing with it when I lived in Winnipeg and then moved out here. And it's like, this is commonplace here. In Winnipeg, it was like, you didn't mention it. So anyways, thank you for being here. And,
Thank you.
And I need you to promise that you'll be back.
You betcha. I'll look forward to it.
Awesome. And thank you guys so very much for listening. As you heard, Dr. Michael's going to be back. If you have any questions, concerns, or cries of outrage of anything that we talked about today, please let us know. And we will talk to you again next week. Have a great day.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Real Talk with Julie Turner. I'm Brad Lovell. Please, I encourage you to check out the show notes. Remember to follow, like, and subscribe. Now join Julie next week. If you have any questions or think you might be a good fit for the show, reach out at julieturner.ca. Stay well, be awesome, and we'll see you next time.